So fantastic to be here. Al's blessed me with the opportunity of being here every year since it started and getting a chance to give you some perspective on how we think at Embraer. And this year he really challenged us because he gave us the opportunity to talk about disrupting business aviation. And when you think about the word disruptive and you think about Embraer, you obviously say, well, that must be those Praetor jets that just came out. They're the most disruptive, technologically advanced aircraft in the market, in midsize and super midsize. Not talking about them. And if those of you did not go to MBAA, you might be thinking we're talking about the $1.4 billion order from FlexJet, our friends in our fractional marketplace. Those things disrupt the marketplace, but that's today. I'm here to talk about the future. And it's a very exciting opportunity when you start to think about how all of what we're doing in this industry is reshaping the ecosystem of air travel for the future. And today, I'd like to share some thoughts, maybe some opportunity to tease you a little bit about how we at Embraer think about the future of aviation. Recognize first, this system is getting more and more integrated by the day. When you look at the modes of transportation that we talk about, we think about going from point to point, right? Going from your house to work, going from the activities that you do day to day. Those things will start to transform into destinations, and those destinations start to have meaning. It's no longer a mission profile. It starts to take shape for how you integrate your lifestyle. And that lifestyle has several modes of transportation, some of which are highlighted here. And you might hop in a car to get to a business jet. You might hop on a train to get to an airliner. Depending on the customer profile, these are ways in which we currently talk about transporting and being mobile and integrating in the system that we have today. And you can see highlighted here a little bit about some of the things that are happening in terms of how transportation is taking shape. Electrification. Transitioning from fossil fuels, from power plants that are dependent on carbon to those that are dependent on electricity or other forms of connectivity that allows us to be mobile in a different way, in a much more sustainable way. Whether that be with electric trains or with autonomous vehicles, these are ways in which you're going to have a much more holistic, integrated solution. And speaking of autonomous, recognize that that ecosystem that we're talking about is going mobile in a whole new way. And that way is 3D, vertical. Very exciting to see. There are over 200 companies in this sector that are focused on delivering mobility solutions. And those companies are conglomerates, the OEMs, Embraer, Bell, Boeing, Airbus, but there's plenty of new players, and those new players are very exciting, entry level, leading with technology. And they are also delivering solutions in this mobility transportation system. And then you have Uber. And Uber is clearly talking about door-to-door, whether it's hopping on a jump to a car, to an airplane, and back to a car, to a jump. I mean, literally going door-to-door. That's the ecosystem that delivers that connectivity. And last year I talked about the millennials reshaping who we are in this ecosystem and how they think only about being connected and being mobile, being always on. And that's a key part of the Maslow hierarchy that we believe is starting to reshape how we think. It's not just about self-esteem and safety and belonging. It's now starting to talk about being connected and being mobile. And one of the things that we think is now starting to introduce even a further attribute of this ecosystem is sustainability. And when you talk about sustainability, the first thing you think about is the fuel. But that's not what millennials think about. Millennials think about what is the corporate social responsibility of your company. And there's our statistics. Just in Forbes this year, they talked about 79% of millennials focus on what the corporate loyalty is for sustainability. So that's where they want to work. What are they doing for society? It's meaningful for them. And so when you're thinking about workforce development, you're thinking about hiring your engineers, you're thinking about hiring the people that you need to work for your business, sustainability is going to be a big part of what those millennials and the future workforce is thinking about. Now, when it comes to the fuel, we're very focused on it. By 2030, the industry's talked about being carbon neutral. This is a big part of the sustainability initiative that the coalition of all the OEMs are doing a fantastic job This year we had a lot of success in fueling and showing the public how sustainable fuel works in our current technology aircraft. But it's not enough. When you think about the future and the ecosystems that we are trying to develop, you have to think about how do you make the entire system more sustainable. And we'd like to talk a little bit about the sustainability of the actual airplane, the materials that the aircraft is made of. Sustainable materials in the form of bamboo and wool and recycled products and upscale products that go into the interior, and that interior starts to have a bespoke story about sustainability. So let me give you a little insight into what we think about bringing that into the airplane.
We're a company full of individuals who've been told no for years, and yet we've created some of the most advanced things that we all find and enjoy.
My name is Embraer, and I'm responsible for managing the industrial design, creative minds on the design student. We are getting all of this material that was stolen away and turning it into a really so article side. This is an example of Kume. Kume is a technique that was developed on the 17th century for assortment. This is representing what we want to do when we go to aircraft graveyards to get used titanium, copper, or different metal, and then transform these into a bit that now has a new life and will become a part of a jewelry base that will go again inside the plane. Our aircraft luckily holds the best residual value on the market. It's something that will last longer and will be meaningful for him for a longer time.
I'm a designer at Embraer US. So the whole point of this video was to promote respecting the environment and the materials we take from it. So before I started the sketch for this, we're thinking about that story and how to tell that story visually. The materials we have an impact on what I sketched, and the materials always should have an impact on the design because you want to design something that works with the material, not against the material. Can we take this idea and create an airplane based on a truly life thing, of an interior assembled with stuff that's good for the planet? Can. The beauty of this design and experience is we're telling a story about making the world a better place for our children, for the generations after us. Technology leads to sustainability.
When you think about sustainability, and you think about mobility, and you think about connectivity, these are the experiences that the future generations, millennials, the buyers, the folks that we will be dealing with this industry are going to be thinking about. Are you always on? Do you have the ability to connect through mobility, through the urban air mobility, as well as all the other modes of transportation? Is it going to bring autonomous? Is it going to have simplified flight? Are you going to be giving back to the environment? Do you have a company that supports sustainability? These will be the ingredients that define the future of ecosystems related to business aviation. And we believe they're very disruptive. Now, how do you integrate them all? What do you do to have a holistic solution that brings all of these factors, all of these hierarchy of needs for the future ecosystem into the experience that allows someone to invest in not only building the aircraft, but purchasing the aircraft, operating the aircraft, maintaining it, and having the opportunity to go to the lifestyle destinations that we have to enjoy. It is all about the customer experience, and that customer experience and the expectations are changing. It's focusing much more on where are you going and how do I incorporate what we currently experience in business air travel, what we currently experience specifically in business aviation travel. Think about it. Maslow also talks about safety, right? Privacy, 36% of the individuals who make a decision on purchasing a business jet make that decision based on privacy as either the most important or one of the most important. And you start thinking about the personalization aspects. You start thinking about how that interior was designed. Is it sustainable? Does it have the characteristics of my personality? When I go to these destinations that are highlighted here, whether it be the Kentucky Derby, the Super Bowl, whether it be Grindelwald in the Swiss Alps, or whether it be Monte Carlo, these are destinations that define who we are in the sector of those who can afford business aviation travel. Now, how do you bring all this together? That's the question we ask ourselves. How are mobility solutions going to integrate all this? It's not easy. It's no longer going to be a simple mission profile of a flight plan from point A to point B, whether that be through the airlines or fractional, or whether it be through corporate transportation. It's going to be, how do you bring connectivity, mobility, sustainability, technology into one solution? And that's the question we asked at Embraer. And that question has led us to some very exciting concepts. And these concepts are just that. It's not a product launch. It's not a commitment to invest dollars into this solution today. It's trying to challenge you to think about, if you're going to disrupt business aviation, you can't think about the current marketplace today. You have to build and reshape the marketplace with the elements that I focused on here for the future. Embraer is proud to share with you our ideas in the insights associated with this environment of mobility. And one of the thoughts that we had to focus on was, how do you bring it all together? And it's a very exciting opportunity. And we're going to tease you with Embraer Pulse. I tell you, I get excited every time I see that. How would you like to show up at the Monaco races like that? Is it possible? We think so. And how are you shaping your companies to start to think about the environment of a holistic ecosystem of air travel? Are you thinking about the challenging opportunities that will bring these customers to our companies as employees because of the sustainability initiatives, and to come to our products to connect to lifestyle experiences? We believe very strongly that this opportunity is out there for all of us. The kinds of things that we talked about in terms of disrupting business aviation in the past got us the last 50 years. When you look at the next 50 years, we have to challenge ourselves in many new ways that go beyond the current eco-labeling issues that we're facing in Europe, important. Electrification, important. How do you bring it all together? We want to design a future that allows for us to not only take advantage of sustainable fuels, sustainable interiors, electrification, simplified flight, autonomous, but bring it together in what the expectation is for the business air traveler to have an experience that is deserving of that investment. Thank you for your time. I open the floor for questions.
Michael, that's pretty fascinating. Hi.
Hey, Michael.
How you doing? I mean, it's obviously, from a technological standpoint, we can make any of these flying machines work, and probably sooner than we think. Where are the regulators I mean, even though we're not even there close to being flying these things yet, but conceptually, are they thinking about, what mechanisms do they need in order to regulate these sorts of vehicles?
Yeah, so good question, Mike. So for those that didn't hear, talked about the regulatory. Where are they? How is the FAA, EASA, all of the agencies looking at this, and what are they doing about it? Interestingly, our history would tell you they're the slow pole and the long pole in the tent. It's not the case. What we're seeing is that is exactly the opposite. The FAA and all of the regulators are working very closely together on accelerating this and finding opportunities to work much closer with private industry to make sure that first we maximize the opportunity for safety, because safety has to happen always, and that always comes first. But the technology advancements are going to come from the private sector. And they recognize that because these are not current technologies. They're much more focused on future technologies, Michael. So you're seeing them want to be engaged in that process. Now, it's not easy. It's going to involve a new air traffic control metric. And we are just one of many companies that have those capabilities. We happen to own a company called ATEC, and that is a business that currently does the Brazil country air traffic control system. So software technologies is a big part of making sure not only do you have a product that serves the marketplace, but how do you bring the safety elements to it. And if you always have conversations with the regulators from a safety point of view, then they will open the doors to have technology advance these products forward.
Hey, nice to see you again here, Michael.
Nice to see you again.
So your Pulse concept gave me goosebumps, as I'm sure it did for other people in this room. But if a company like Embraer is not putting their dollars behind it, who else is going to do it?
Well, I can't speak for what other companies are doing. I can only give you some of the insights that we have here at Embraer, and I think our team is very excited about it. We have combined interior designs, industrial designs, working with the folks down in Brazil to talk about sustainable products, which is a big part of what led us to think about some of these things. So think about some of the teasers that you saw in there, translucent aluminum, right? A smart window, side-facing, side-mounted seats. Like, there are just all these technological advancements combined with upcycle and recycle products. So it's not something I think all of the OEMs across the sector, and while I can't speak for them, I don't get a sense that they're seeing it as broadly or as potentially as we do. But I hope they do. I'm excited about it. It's going to take a collaborative effort. It's not going to be driven by one company. Our job is to tease you and excite you about what we think is the future, hoping to ignite the entire industry to support these initiatives.
Okay, any more old school? Michael, do you want to pick one of the Slido questions?
You pick.
eVTOL in major cities, noise, landing strips.
Sure.
It's a big challenge.
It is. Yeah, so it's interesting. There's a few thoughts there. So real estate is going to be a big factor. Obviously, you need to look for ways in which you can create vertiports, use the existing building systems within major ecosystem cities, metropolitan areas. That clearly going to be a big factor. In terms of electrification, and the batteries aren't there yet, the technology's not there yet. Recognize that the discussion topics here are not about tomorrow, it's about building the ecosystem for the future. But we are making good strides towards building the architecture and structure necessary to develop electrification and battery technologies that might start off right now at 60 nautical miles and then in the future have a hybrid and electric solution that allows you to go 300 or 400 nautical miles, that allows you to get from your house to your workplace in the inner city and then from city to city to connect points beyond that to other means of transportation. It is very unique in terms of what we see. It's a very, focused on not any one factor, Alistair. When you think about fuel, that's going to be a big factor. When you think about real estate, software, technologies to support the air traffic control system, there's so many factors that go into urban air mobility. Right now, it's about proof of concept, and all of the entry-level new entrants in the marketplace, as well as the OEMs, are focused on proving and validating. And if you just saw at NBAA, a lot of the OEMs were there trying to showcase their products. Some of those can be built. Now the question is, can they be certified? And as you know, there's a lot more sensitivity associated with the certification process, and so we're very focused on making sure that that is a key factor to the solutions that we bring to market at Embraer.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you.